Oh, hello, and welcome to the board game mechanics review of Raccoon Tycoon. Roll that beautiful intro footage.
Raccoon Tycoon from Forbidden Games comes in a really nice looking box. Let's get into it. We're going to start with our setup. First step is to put the game board on the table. It's an attractive looking game board with some really nice looking art on it, and an adorable little woodland creature hiking down a path with a pickaxe. Pretty cool little detail in there. Helps keep things organized. A nice board overall. The next step is we're going to prepare our 3 primary decks for this game. The price and production deck is at the heart of this game. This is where you're going to find how you're going to modify the prices of goods and acquire new goods in order to sell them later when the market prices get right. So the top half of the card shows us what's going to happen to prices. On this card, we'd be moving coal up 2 spots. On the bottom half, we're allowed to acquire some goods. Now there's 4 goods listed on this card, but I'll be able to take any of these 3 goods. So I've shuffled this deck and I've prepared it for gameplay. There's also 2 additional decks. The second deck we're going to prepare is the town deck. This one prepares a little differently than the other decks in that you don't just shuffle this deck. You do randomize the cards in this, but based on point values. So the lower point value cards go in the top. So we're going to see the 2 point value cards first, followed by the 3s and the 4s and so on. So the town deck is really another neat little way that you can score some points in this game without having to involve yourself in an auction. They also get better if you compare them with a railroad. As you can see, this one's worth 2 points, but when paired with any railroad of any type at all, gives you an additional 2 points. And that's for each town you buy that can be paired with a unique different railroad. Next, we're going to look at the railroad deck. This is where the game gets some of its excitement from, as we're going to do some auctions here and get some points. This is what the whole point of the game is about, it seems, to get some wealth, then buy these railroads in a smart way where you're not overpaying. The neat thing about this game, too, is it's a set collection kind of thing as well. Because if I get my top dog railroads into my set, the first one's worth 4. If I have a set of 2, it's worth 9. A set of 3 is worth 15, and then 23. So I'm trying as best I can to get to that all the top dog railroads belong to me, because I'm going to have a really nice set of points there, and everyone else is really, really trying hard not to let me do that. The other thing, too, worth mentioning about the railroad deck is that at different player counts, some railroads will not be involved. One final deck worth mentioning is the mission deck. This is kind of a neat little twist. What you do if you play with the mission deck is you're going to shuffle these cards up and hand 2 cards to every person. Then they're going to have a choice between a couple different ideas of what they want to do for in-game scoring. This player would have the opportunity to have the most towns or the most buildings. Pretty interesting. In addition, there's some other kinds of ideas too. This is the coal baron. If you have coal at the end of the game, it's worth 1 point apiece. There's also the same thing for all the other commodities in this game. There's some other in-game scoring things for things like the most money. Kind of adds a little twist to the game. Pretty neat. Adds another layer. Worth putting in probably most of the time. Next, we prepare the building tiles. We're going to start off with shuffling 6 basic commodity tiles and then placing 4 of them out on the board. The 2 remaining commodity tiles are going to go back in the box. Another additional rule about this that you could use that is listed in the rulebook is that you could only do the number of players in the game is the number of basic commodity tiles you place out. The basic commodity tiles basically are just going to give you 1 additional good every time you do production. So just taking 3, instead of taking just basically 3 goods, you're going to get 1 additional good of the type that you have. But then beyond that, these tiles are unique because they're double-sided. So you can pay the $6 for this luxury. It becomes your tile. Then later in the game, on another turn, you could pay 15 and it becomes a better version of that, where you're going to get 2 additional luxury items every time you do a production. These replace throughout the game, and there's not really any more hugely powerful like these production bonus tiles, but there are a lot of really cool little game-breaking things, such as the black market, which moves your hand up to 4 cards from the basic amount of cards that you're allowed to have in the game. Or maybe we could look at another one here. The Rail Baron. Each railroad's worth an additional victory point. Finally, the Smuggler. Your max hand size is 4. So this one upgrades your hand size from 3 to 4. This one upgrades your hand from 3 to 5. But there's a price difference there. So the game is full of really neat little building tiles like this that you're going to play with throughout the course of the game, make you more powerful, make you better at making that money so you can do better at those auctions. Pretty neat idea. Finally, you'll want to have your supply of commodity tokens ready to go. You get a generous amount of these wooden commodity tokens in the box. You'll want to prepare the tokens and money to be ready to go. The money in this game is technically kind of a paper money, but it's really kind of more like a plastic linen finish money. Finally, we're going to put out the 6 different types of goods in this game. We start the game with them all at their beginning values. There's basically, if we look at it, pairs of different types of goods. The low, the mediums, and the highs. The low goods for the pricing are wheat and wood, which start at $1 and max out at $12. Then we have iron and coal, which begin at $2 and max out at $13. Finally, there are goods and luxuries. You'll have to use your imagination on what goods might be, but they start at $3 and they go up to $14. You're going to do one of 5 actions on your turn. The first one is called production. That's where I would take a card and play it down. There are 2 things that are going to happen on production. First, I'm going to resolve the top half of the card, which says move the price of coal up 2 spots. 1, 2. I like how they zigzag this board because it keeps me from, if the board gets bumped, I can kind of see which side the good was on and get a better idea of the price. I also like how they zigzag it too, because then I can always see all the prices at all the times. Whereas if it were just a linear track, I'd have a hard time seeing that. So just a little feature I wanted to point out. Finally, I'm going to resolve the bottom half of this card, where it says I'm allowed to take 3 goods shown here. So I think I would do well to definitely take a luxury, to take a coal, and I'm going to go ahead and take wood. You can only take multiples of the same good if that same good's listed twice or shown twice in the production part of the card. So on the card that I showed you in the example, I had to take 3 different types of goods at 1 each. On this one, I could take 2 luxuries and a coal. As the game develops and people begin to make the prices on the market fluctuate a little bit and you acquire some goods, you're going to see people take option 2, which is to sell commodities. When you're selling commodities, what you're going to do is you're going to look at the value of the commodity that you're selling, and then you're going to multiply that by the number of goods that you're selling. So in this example, I'm selling iron. Iron's presently at 8. I'd like to sell 3 pieces of iron. So 3 times 8 is 24. I would collect $24 from the bank for selling those 3 pieces of iron, but then I need to make an adjustment to the market. I need to move the market down 1, 2, 3 positions. So there was a correction there with the market. As I saturated the market, there was a lot more supply than demand again. So the price dropped. That's selling commodities, the second option. The third option you have is to start a railroad auction. So this basically works following standard auctioning rules on a board game typically, where you are going to either raise the bid or pass out of the auction. Once everyone's passed out of the auction, there's only one buyer left. They pay the price they've bid and they take that railroad. So the neat thing about this though is if you start a auction on your turn and you don't win the railroad, not all is lost, because you get to have your turn go over again if you don't win the railroad. If you do win a railroad on someone else's turn, that's kind of a neat little bonus that you got there. You got to buy a railroad, not on your turn. So, buying a railroad, starting an auction, third option we have. The fourth option is to pay the price in the bottom right-hand corner of these building tiles. Buy a building tile, place it in front of you in your tableau. And for the rest of the game, you're going to get whatever benefit you see on that tile. They are worth 1 victory point at the end of the game. But that's one of your options. Option 4, buying a building tile. The final option you have is you may acquire a town card. So town cards are acquired in one of 2 ways. Either you pay the specific good at the specific value there. So this would cost 2 wheat to get. Or if you look closely here, it says any 4 goods will do that. They don't have to be matching goods. Any 4 goods, you ditch them, you take that town. That's your final choice on your turn to acquire a town card. Basically, the game's going to end once we exhaust the railroad or the town deck. Worth mentioning, the variable setup for this is based on player count. So with some of the railroads, they will come out at lower player counts. Some of the town cards will come out at lower player counts. Everyone gets equal turns. So based on the idea that you're going around the table in a clockwise fashion, the player to the right of the start player will be the last player total in the game, so that everyone gets equal turns. You keep track of that start player with this massive, awesome first player marker. Amongst the best first player markers I've ever seen in a game. So based solely on my brief rules explanation, you can probably gather that this game is pretty good. But is pretty good enough anymore? I feel like our board gaming shelves are getting very full, and the games are getting more and more expensive. So I feel like games need to be great for us to hang on to them anymore. So does this game tread into greatness territory? Well, let's break it down a little bit and see what we think. Right off the bat, the components in this game are amazing. For a really long time, Days of Wonder games were our touchstone of what great components were in a game. And they were great components in its day, and they still are very good. But this one blows the doors off any Days of Wonder game I've ever had. These shaped cubes in this, the thickness of the cardboard, the box itself being so thick, and then the finish on the cardboard is just fantastic. I also like little additions like this. They could have gone with like small size cards and then standard cards for the cards that they use in this game. Instead they went tarot size and standard size, so they went bigger on these cards. And then the cards could have just been like plain cardboard, but they went with the tarot size with the linen finish on that. So it's like these cards are going to last for years and years and years and lots of play. So I like that they went above and beyond on the components on this. The next thing I'm going to say is that this game has some of the most adorable, cute little art I've ever seen in a game. Some of those little terriers that you see that have the top dog railway. You just want to play with them. So they're just the cutest little dogs that you're going to see. Cutest little raccoons, which raccoons in this game are much cuter than they are in real life, I guess. But you have some really cute critters in this game. A really nice presentation in the art. Very, very good game in that regard. It's simple to learn too. I mean, like the ideas of like how to play the game were pretty well laid out in my video there. I mean, like it's just real quick to teach someone. I think inside of 10 minutes you can be playing this game because everyone understands the ideas of supply and demand. Everyone understands the ideas on an auction, and the point values aren't super complicated to figure out. So really easy to teach. So the final thing I'm going to say about this is that the entry of this game into the economic realm of board games is very welcome by me. I love Airlines Europe. It's a really great game. I like Acquire quite a bit. I like For Sale. I like Stockpile. I like all these games that are economic games, but you don't see a ton of these come out every year. So especially in that family weight. This is like a family weight economic game that's another alternative to those games that I just mentioned. And so because of that, I think it's really cool, and it merits a place on my shelf personally. If you're a fan of economic games, I think it would probably do the same for you. So what are my cons? Just one. The player count on this one, you need to play at the upper reaches of players to really maximize this game, to really enjoy the auctions, to really enjoy the fun on this game. You need to be at those upper player counts. At 2 players, this game isn't as fun, nearly as fun as it is at that upper player count. So you want to play it at the higher player counts for sure. If you're a 2-person gamer, you're a couple that games, this one may not be for you. But if you've got a group where you can get 4 out there playing this game quite a bit, I think it's really great at 4. It's pretty good at 3 even. So anyway, so the other thing too is here at the Board Game Mechanics, we break down our ratings, or at least I break down my ratings on a few different categories. So accessibility, I mean by that it's going to be a game that's going to be easy to understand and learn. The rules are pretty simple in this game, so I'd say most anybody can play this game. I would say anyone from maybe a 10-year-old child up to a grandparent, because it's just a simple game to grasp. Those economic games usually too, like we work with the economy, we work with the economics all the time. So I think that the idea of the economy and the stock market and auctions is something that is general appeal and broad. So I think that we're going to be able to teach this to about anybody. I think the theme on this is going to suit almost anybody. I think it's a little silly theme. It's a little fairy tale, talking dogs, personified animals kind of theme, which is just fun. Some people might think, oh, that's not for me, it's a little bit childish or whatever. That's the only people I would say that this theme wouldn't work for. I think most everybody's going to think the theme is really just a fun little thing. Raccoons running railroads. I mean, how fun is that? So I think the theme is going to be there for just about anybody. The fun factor, I give it a 4 out of 5. This is where this game is a little dry in some ways with the buying and selling of things. So there's periods of time where it's like, okay, I'm just trying to maximize iron so I can make lots of money. But then you get a stack of money and then the auctions start. And it's like, once those auctions get going, you're like, oh, here we go. This is fun. This is fun. And that's where that fun really hits. The auctions in this game are just a blast. And then because you know the auctions are going to be so fun and so important, you're working really hard during those dry times to really maximize what you're doing with your buildings in front of you, that you're selling at the right time, that you're acquiring the right goods, manipulating the market the way you should. So the final thing too is the design and the art. I can't go on and on about this forever, can I? It's amazing. It's 5 out of 5. This is as good as you're going to find. And I think that everything Forbidden Games has done has had phenomenal components in it. So I am going to actually look at Railroad Rivals here in the next month or two. And I agree with it as well being a great game as far as the components go. So for them to have a couple games come out of the gate with such good components, pretty huge. So 5 out of 5, a perfect score on this one for design and art and components basically built into that too. So where do I put this one at? The final rating I'm going to give it is a 4.5 out of 5 wrenches, which you can extrapolate that out to a 10-point scale. That's a 9 out of 10. So this is a very good game. I'm going to hang on to this game. It's not going anywhere. It's not for trade. It's going to stay right in my collection, and I don't see myself getting tired of this one anytime in the near future. I think this is going to be a perennial, evergreen kind of game that I'm going to play. Maybe not quite monthly, but every so often. I mean, I think this is one that's just going to be one that I can play with a certain group and really enjoy it. This might be that game that I play on Christmas Eve, just to have my family back and after my son's grown and I have grandchildren, this could be that kind of game. So I think it's a really neat game. It's not going anywhere. It's going to hang in my collection. And I give it the 4.5 out of 5 wrench rating, which makes it Board Game Mechanics accepted. If you're on the fence about this one, I say go ahead and jump. It's a pretty good game. I don't think you'll regret it. I really have enjoyed it and thought it's been pretty great. So one last thing before I wrap up here. I always want to do this because you guys are important to me. Thank you for watching, and I really appreciate your viewership. If you like this review, this is kind of the new standard that I'm doing for my reviews. So maybe look at subscribing to our channel. I've got a playlist that's going to pop up here in a second with all my videos in it. I have improved a little. Some of them aren't as awesome as this one. I'm not saying this one's awesome, I guess, but I have improved some. So be gracious with me. But at any rate, I have enjoyed making these videos and continue to make them. So if you like these, maybe subscribe. Also, our main thing we do at the Board Game Mechanics is our podcast. So you can find those here on YouTube. The episodes are just there as audio. If you want to listen to our podcast, that'd be fantastic. If not, that's cool too. Also, if you're like, hey, I am a podcast guy, but I do iTunes, we're there as well. We're on also Google Play's podcasting stuff too. So at any rate, maybe check out our stuff. Find us on Facebook. Go to bgmechanics.com. That's it. I wanted to just give us a plug because we work pretty hard to try and engage you guys, and we really appreciate you guys being our fans and hanging out, like watching what we do. So thank you for that. And I've been Joel. Keep gaming.